It's going.
All right. All right. So, like I said, if you can just sign in and put your favorite ice cream, or if you could be any kind of ice cream, what would it be? And we're going to go ahead and start. So today, welcome to Tell, the one of our online Zoom meetings. Or Zoom seminars. I'm really, really, really excited about tonight because you are going to get to hear from student teachers. And uh, Katie Simon and we did a presentation, and Dr. Rao, at a conference recently. And we had asked people some questions about TEL. And one of the answers was that they would like to hear more about student teaching, or to have a panel of student teachers, or a panel of like people that are teaching. So we thought, hey, it would be a great idea for us to do student teachers. And so that's what we're going to do tonight. And so we're going to start off. We're going to obviously, we've welcomed you, and now you're telling us about your ice cream. And then we're going to do a short devotion. I'm going to do that, if that's all right, Dr. Rao. Good?
Yes.
Okay. And then a prayer. And Jenna, are you still okay with praying for us?
Yes. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, so I won't need to pray right now. I'm going to do my devotion, and then I'll hand it to you, and you can say a little prayer for us, if that's okay. I can't see you. I don't know why. Where are you? Like in the other pages?
No, she doesn't have her camera on. She's on a phone.
Oh, okay, that's why I couldn't see. Okay. And then we're also going to talk about the newly elected officers, and I was very excited about that. All right, so first is my devotion. I have this devotional. It's actually on Kindle because it was a lot cheaper. So it's on Kindle. So I'm going to share my Kindle on my computer and read this. I do not know if you all have read this particular devotional. Let's see if I can. It's called Encouragement for Life. There's a whole bunch of different topics about just love and encourage, or anything that will encourage us. And I happened upon this one a few days ago, and I thought this is perfect for our group. And so basically it just kind of goes through and has a little devotional. I hope you do not mind me reading it, but I just thought that this was perfect for tonight. And this is affirmation and appreciation. All of us need encouragement, somebody to believe in us. And definitely as teachers, we need that, but we also need to be that for our students, to reassure and reinforce us, to help us pick up the pieces and go on, to provide us with increased determination in spite of the odds. And sometimes we face lots of different obstacles. So when we encourage others, we spur them on, we stimulate and affirm them. It is helpful to remember the distinction between appreciation and affirmation. We appreciate what a person does, but we affirm who a person is. I read that a couple days ago, and I was just, that is so true. We want to affirm who our students are, who each other. We want to affirm each other. Appreciation comes and goes, but it's usually related to something someone accomplishes. Affirmation goes deeper. It is directed to the person himself or herself. While encouragement would encompass both, the rarer of the two is affirmation. To be appreciated, we get the distinct impression that we must earn it by some accomplishment. But affirmation requires no such prerequisite. This means that even when we don't earn the right to be appreciated, maybe we failed to succeed at something we thought we should have. I struggle with this a little bit myself. Don't win, lots of people win different awards or whatever. Hey, you know what? I'm still okay with who I am, even though I don't have a lot of awards on my wall. But we can still be affirmed, and we need it more than ever when sometimes my discouragement or our discouragement comes from not accomplishing what we think we're supposed to accomplish, but sometimes God has other plans for us, and it's not that we failed, it's that maybe we need to look at a different path. I think we lost Dr. Ryle. Is that right? It says, I do not care how influential or secure or mature a person may appear to be. Genuine encouragement never fails to help. Most of us need massive doses of it. So I'm a doctor, but not a real doctor, but I can prescribe massive doses of affirmation. I was going to try to say that without stuttering there. And so when I read this a couple days ago, I just knew I had to share it with you all. I see Charlotte laughing. Apparently I'm really funny because everyone laughs at me in class. So, oh, thank you. So I just wanted to encourage you all to be affirming of each other, to affirm your students. So when you're in your clinicals or student teaching or just whenever you're working with students, that you affirm who they are and not just, oh, I really like how you drew that picture of a sun. You know, that's great. We want to do that, but we also want to affirm who they are so they can feel good about themselves. I do think we lost Dr. Ryle though, because oh, well, are you there, Dr. Ryle?
I'm here. I didn't go anywhere.
Well, oh, there you are. You went away from my screen. Okay. So I'm going to go back to here. Sorry that I thought you left.
No, that's all. It's all good.
Okay, I didn't mean to think you left. All right, so then I'm going to just talk about really quick our newly elected officers. And then I'm going to have Jenna pray for us, and then we are going to welcome our guest speakers. Okay, so officially congratulating our new officers, and those who are new officers, we will be having a meeting as soon as I have a free hour, I promise. So Jenna Davis is going to be our president. She continues that. Charlotte Barnes is our vice president, president-elect. Mackenzie Andrews is our secretary. Megan Bellamy is going to be our treasurer. Katie Simon is our program chair and all-around guru for everything. And then Faith Hops is going to be our hospitality. I was going to ask Faith to bring us to our meeting some Hostess cakes and some Little Debbie's, but we are virtual. So today we will not have any snacks, but she will be providing and helping us with those in the future. Okay, now I'm going to turn it over to Jenna to pray for us tonight, and then back to Dr. Ryle.
All right, can you guys still hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I've had trouble with my mic before, so I just wanted to check. All right, dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this wonderful day. Hold on one second. Thank you for this wonderful day and that we all have this amazing opportunity to come and be a part of this town meeting, Lord. I pray that you will just open our hearts and our ears and help us to just hear amazing things tonight that you have in store for us to hear and to learn a lot. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Jenna. Okay, Dr. Ryle, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Rhodes. And again, as she said, my name is Dr. Ryle, but my students typically don't call me Dr. Ryle. They call me Prof. Ryle.
Oh.
There's a long story that goes with that, but I don't usually go by Dr. Ryle. Prof. Ryle works just fine with me. You can stop sharing your screen if you want. That'll make them easier for them to be able to see everybody.
There we go.
Harley, you're going to be up first. I'm giving you a little lead time there. So I first of all want to thank you for coming tonight. Professional development is critically important for educators. You had lots of other options tonight. You could have gone and gotten coffee. You could have gone down to Drinkling's. You could have gone to Nicholasville and gone to Culver's and gotten real ice cream or do 1,000 other things. But you chose to come and be here and hopefully learn something. I'm being very serious when I say I give you a lot of kudos for spending time growing professionally. I hope that one of the things that student teachers do is they They develop a resume, which is a list of some of their accomplishments. I'm suggesting that you put that you were active in the on-campus student group on your resume, because that will be important to principals. Principals want teachers that are growing and improving. So if you're a freshman or a sophomore, then I will tell you that when you're a junior, the spring of your junior year, usually, you take either 300 or 301, and that is the methods block. Then in the fall, for most of you in the fall of your senior year, you'll take 401. And in 401, you are in the classroom where you're going to student teach in the spring of your senior year. So I know there's some 401 students on here, and so they're doing that right now. And then in your spring semester of your senior year, that's when you student teach, and that's 70 days long. And we do have some student teachers, not very many, 8 of them, who are student teaching in the fall. They're student teaching in the fall because maybe because they're an athlete, so they got out of sequence a little bit. Several of them are APS students, which if you're an on-campus student, you may not know what an APS student is. An APS student is a student that is usually in their mid-20s or 30s. They are learning from home. They typically got an associate's degree, a 2 years degree from someplace else. They're often married. Sometimes they have children. If you look on the screen tonight, you'll see Miranda Denny and Madison Park and Kelly Tuttle. All 3 of them are in fact married, and they're student teaching while they're married. They live in other parts of Kentucky, except my good friend Madison there, who lives in Ohio. But since all student teaching needs to be done in Kentucky, unless it's overseas, Madison is driving from Ohio every morning to Kentucky to her placement, and then driving back to Ohio every night to be with her husband and her little newborn daughter. So there are 8 student teachers, and I'm hoping that they do 90% of the talking. My guess is they're hoping that they do 90% of the talking, because they're tired of listening to me talk, would be my guess. But we really want you to ask any questions that you want to ask them of 301, 401, or student teaching. So, and we'll be done before 8 o'clock. That's as long as we're going to be here. We're going to honor your time because you came tonight. So I'm going to just call on them one at a time, and they are going to tell you their name and what their major is and where their student teaching placements are. Almost every student teacher has at least 2 placements. Sometimes they have 3, but none of the ones that are with us tonight have 3 placements. So they were in their first placement for the first 35 days of the semester. And this Monday, which was the same place where they were for 401. And then this Monday, day before, what's today, Tuesday? Yesterday, they moved to their second placement for their very first day. And that's with a teacher that they really didn't know. So they'll tell you where their 2 placements are and what their major is and what their name is. And then we'll jump into some questions. So if you have some questions you want to ask student teachers, I hope that you will jump in. If you don't jump in, then I'll jump in and start asking them questions. Harley Wagner, you're up to bat first.
Perfect. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Harley Wagner. I am a traditional undergrad student. I am an elementary ed major with a math emphasis. I am currently at Wilmore Elementary doing my student teaching. I actually got to do both of my placements here, which is amazing because I got to know the school and make relationships with lots of kids and different staff members and just everyone around the school. So that's definitely been a blessing. I started in a first grade classroom with 26 precious little kids. And I just now started yesterday my second placement in 5th grade, and it is a total different ball game. But I'm super excited, and I'm excited to hear your questions and share with you all our experiences and answer anything that we can.
Hey, Harley, let's do something else.
Okay.
just to keep us from jumping around all the time.
That's
Why
fine.
don't you tell them your favorite part of student teaching, what you like the most, and what's been the hardest part?
Okay, good questions. I would say my favorite part, it's a little cliche, but just making relationships with kids. I mean, these first graders, they have so many different backgrounds, and I'm sure you've already experienced that as well, going into the classrooms and learning from your cooperating teacher. And just to learn with them, and also just I have one experience I had just recently. I saw one of my kiddos outside of school, and it was actually up at the Luce Center. I saw him doing some swim lessons. I was just up there because I'm an athlete. I'm up there sometimes. And his face when he saw me was just like, it was insane. Like, he couldn't see his teacher outside of school. He was like, "What is going on?" And his mom was like, "Who is this?" So I had to introduce myself to his mom and all the things. But it's just truly making those relationships, those lasting relationships, because you don't never know like how much you actually mean to a kid and how much of an impact you're making in their life. So that would definitely be my favorite part of student teaching, is meeting all the kiddos. The most challenging part, I would say, for me is whenever I'm in the classroom, I notice that my like behavior, like I have a lot of students in my first grade classroom. I'm kind of talking about that placement because I kind of just wrapped that up and kind of have a better idea of that. But whenever I was giving behavior like redirections to my kid, I noticed that like that was really challenging for me. So I really had to step out of my bubble and my comfort zone and really being able to redirect kids and use that different language, because I don't know if your schools use Dojo. That's what our school uses. It's their behavior plan. You can give green points, which is kind of positive things for their expectations that they have, but also they can receive red dojos, which we call redirection points. So it doesn't sound negative, but I really struggled with having to give those just because I thought like I would make a kid cry or something. But really it's all in like how you word things. So like I would tell a kid like this, I would give them warnings first. So like, this is your first warning, second warning, and be very direct in why you are calling out that behavior towards them. And then whenever giving that redirection point, like saying exactly what it's for, like, "Buddy, I have to give you a redirection point right now because you are not being responsible." Because we have different we're the Bear Cubs at Wilmore, so we have a different acronym saying for the Cubs. So consider and respect others, use your talents, be responsible, and strive for success. So being super direct with those, that has just been my challenging point and something I've grown in for sure.
Harley, that was perfect. Thank you.
That was a lot
so
of talking. Sorry, I can
No,
ramble.
no, that's what I want. That's what we want you to do. They don't want to hear me talking. I guarantee you they don't. Hey, David, how about you telling them about yourself and about your placements, and then what you've really enjoyed and what you find challenging or difficult or miserable about student teaching?
Yeah, my name is David Savastio. I am a social studies education major. I added on the middle school as well. So I did my first placement at Leestown Middle School in a 7th grade history class. And then as of Monday, I am at West Jessamine High School doing an AP psychology class, an AP government class, and 3 social studies surveys classes. So it is a big leap from teaching the same world history lesson 5 times every day, juggling those different classes and some content that I'm not as familiar with. But I've really enjoyed the process of student teaching. I have had the opportunity to get plugged in with the school as a whole. Leestown does something every fall to get their students ready for the school year called Leestown Way. And that was a really good experience for me, just getting to understand what the school is about. So it was a 3-day event with 1 day for 6th grade, 1 day for 7th grade, and 1 day for 8th grade. And then a full school assembly where they dove into where they discussed the idea of respect, which is the acronym that Leestown uses for all their behavior. So they brought in guest speakers, and it was a cool experience to really get plugged in with the school early on in student teaching. Outside of that, like Harley talked about, and like I'm sure everybody's going to talk about, the relationships that you build with the students are really special. They don't understand that you're not actually their teacher. And so we had a lot of funny conversations when they realized that I was going to be leaving halfway through the semester. But it was sweet to get to build those relationships with them. And I looked forward to spending time with them every day, and watching them connect some of the pieces of history that I loved so much when I was that age was really neat as well, because it was my 6th and 7th grade history teacher that made me want to teach history. And so that's just a special time for me as well. I would say the biggest challenge that I've had to deal with is that my first period class at that school had 11 English language learners in it. Leestown is a very diverse school, which is really neat, and I like getting to hear about different students' experiences, but the language barrier definitely presented a challenge, as well as pacing the lessons and keeping that class up with all of the other classes that I taught. So taking time on certain things to make sure that they understand it and that they are getting the material, but also not slowing it down to the point that they're falling behind the other classes. So that was something that me and my teacher worked with each other on a lot, but it was definitely challenging as well.
Hey, David, you're an athlete, and I think some of the other people on the screen are too. And that's a special challenge to navigate being in 301, 401 student teaching and trying to play a sport. What advice would you give those kids that are athletes and ed majors?
It's very difficult. So you really need to be wise in the way that you structure out your time, especially if you are doing a placement in season and you have to count up all of those hours. I struggled a lot in my 400 block to try to get the 75 hours around the season. For baseball, we play 4 games a week and we travel a lot. And so it was really just finding that free time whenever I could. So a lot of it does come down to, you really just have to be personally disciplined and find the time to go. And during student teaching, it's also really difficult because those days were just packed full for me. I would be at the school I would leave, a little bit after 7 to get there. And then I would get back at 4:30 and I would have baseball practice from 5 o'clock to 9. So I wouldn't be in my apartment for more than 10 minutes between 7 a.m. and 9:30 p.m. So it's full days. It's very busy, but I think that part of it is just finding people to help you and support you, work with other people to make sure that you're getting caught up with things, and again, just find the time whenever you can and try to stay as disciplined as possible, especially in season.
Thanks, David. You've done a nice job with that. Thank you. Miranda, how about you?
Okay, my name is Miranda Denny. My first placement that I had was at Olive Hill Elementary School. That was for 2nd grade. And then the placement I just started on Monday is at Heritage Elementary School. And that's with 4th and 5th graders. And both of those are in Carter County. I'd say probably the hardest thing as far as student teaching for me has probably been trying to figure out kind of like some other people talked about, figuring out how to do classroom management, but also building the relationships with your students. But at the same time, it's also been really great getting to build those relationships with the students and kind of get outside of my comfort zone to be able to do all of that.
Do you have one of your little ones there with you?
Yeah, my son's running around. I'm sorry.
Well, no, can we see her? So Miranda has two children, two children.
Yeah, I have three. My oldest, my boy's here. Come here. Say hi.
Hi.
So she's been doing everything that everybody else is doing, trying to be a mom to three children. So Miranda, congratulations. You've done great at that.
Thank you.
Okay, Kylie, you're who I see next. And you can add your perspective about sports too.
Okay. I'm Kylie Flynn. I am a traditional undergrad and I'm an elementary ed major with an emphasis in LBD, Dr. Rhodes. What am I supposed to say? Oh, I was at Nicholasville Elementary for my first placement in 5th grade, which was really different for me because I've only really dealt with younger kids. And this placement, I am at Simmons Elementary in kindergarten. So I went from one end of the spectrum to the next.
Where's Simmons?
Woodford County. So it has been a very interesting change just because the ages are so different, but it's been a lot of fun. I'm supposed to say my favorite part about student teaching.
Yeah.
I guess to go along with like building the relationships, I've loved actually being there all day, every day. It's a lot of fun to actually get to see them every single day, and you get to actually see that progress as they go along because you're not just coming in here and there and 1 hour this day, 2 hours the next year. I actually get to be there and watch that progress, and it really helps you to build those relationships. My biggest challenge, I think, was, which it helps that your 400 is the same place as student teaching, but kind of finding your place in the classroom, knowing how much you can step in, how much, you feel like this isn't my classroom, I don't want to step in, but your teacher wants you to. So make sure you know that you are just as much their teacher as your cooperating teacher is, and they want you to know that. And at first I was kind of like, kind of standoffish, and my teacher was like, you are just as much their teacher, step in and, use our behavior management plan and everything like Harley was saying. So I think that was my biggest challenge the first little bit, but know that straight up. I wish somebody would have said, like, go in and take charge just as much as your cooperating teacher does. And from a sports perspective, I would say pretty much the same as David, just learning how to schedule yourself and take time for yourself, because you can drive yourself absolutely mad because you don't ever take time for you. So if there's something that needs to be done, but you literally feel like you can't do another thing, tell Raul, I can't handle this today, and he's going to understand. So make sure that you're not, driving yourself into the ground to try and get everything done on a time crunch. Just be flexible, talk with your cooperating teacher, talk with Raul and your supervisor, and I promise everything will be great.
That's good advice, Kylie. Thank you. Carter.
Okay, my name is Carter Ferguson. I am a middle grades 5 through 9 major with an emphasis in math and social studies. And I have had the privilege of having both of my placements at Woodford County Middle School. So last placement, I was in social studies, 8th grade with Adam Swingle. And right now I just started with Miss Wofford in 6th grade math. So it's two grade levels apart, but 6th grade and 8th grade I view as worlds apart, because 6th grade I kind of view them as like, they're a little bit older 5th graders, and then 8th graders I'm like, they're a little bit younger high schoolers. That's how I view it. But it has honestly been a blast. I guess one thing that I enjoy the most about middle school, about student teaching in middle school, is just taking into account the small things you notice and that students notice while forming relationships. So I have an example. I actually have it with me. So we were going over the Boston Massacre a few weeks ago. And so the Boston Massacre is this issue, and Paul Revere, he illustrated in like the famous political cartoon of the British soldiers kind of like firing their muskets towards the American colonists, but it did not like really tell the entire story. So it was a little bit of like a propaganda thing to get the colonists riled up against the British soldiers. Not to bore you guys with the facts, but what I did to illustrate like relatability with the students was I told them a story about what happened with me whenever I was 10 years old. And the story was me and my brother got into an argument because he stole my Nintendo DS. And I'm pretty sure the students didn't really know what a DS was. But I told them we got into a spat about that. And so we got into it. And then I was like, man, my brother is 3 years younger than me, and you can still see the dent in his forehead whenever I took his head and slammed it on a coffee table whenever we disagreed about that, and he wouldn't give it back to me. And they loved it. Like the students loved it. And so, so my last day was Friday. So, and the students, like a few of the students like wrote me cards or whatever. And that story stuck out to this one boy so much that he illustrated it. I don't know if you can see it very well. I don't know if you can see it very well, but he called it the forehead incident of 2008 and illustrated me taking my brother's head and banging it on the coffee table. So, and then another example was there was this boy that always brought Ghost Swedish fish flavored energy drink every day to class. I was like, man, dude, I like those Ghost energy drinks, man, but you gotta try some other flavors. And he never would. Like this was about like a month ago. I told him this, but then the last day on Friday, he brought in a different flavor of Ghost energy drink. He was like, Mr. Ferguson finally decided to buy another flavor. And so that kind of taught me like sometimes we can't really realize the impact we have on students until probably whenever they realize that they're never gonna like see us in class again. The impact will not be as evident as you think until like maybe the last day. And that's like the beautiful thing about it. But yeah, those are the things I've enjoyed the most about student teaching so far. A challenging part goes along with David's at Leestown. At Woodford, the population at Woodford is predominantly white and Caucasian, and then the highest minority percentage is Hispanic. And so there's a lot of Spanish-speaking students, and in one class period that I had in my social studies placement, there was a Spanish-speaking student that didn't know a lick of English, and there was also a Ukrainian-speaking student that didn't know a lick of English. So it's kind of hard to like delegate like tasks to them while still teaching the English speaking students. It's kind of hard to like kind of design for literally everybody. So I have had a little bit of trouble with that, faced some challenges, struggled, but overall it's been a great experience. And I'm the type of guy that kind of embraces the struggle. Like struggle, just think of it as kind of like the beautiful pain. Honestly, like you'll have some growing pains, but at the end of the road, you'll be super refined. So there's always learning to be done. So that's what I've learned.
Thanks, Carter. That was great. Madison.
So I'm Madison Park. Right now I am at Hinsdale Elementary in Kenton County. I had my first placement there and I was in kindergarten, and then I just started in 5th grade on Monday. So I think the most challenging thing so far would be starting out the school year in kindergarten. We only had, I think, 3 students that went to preschool last year. So the majority of the kids had never really been in a classroom, never had a routine. The first week of school, half the kids like fell asleep in the middle of the day because they were so exhausted. So I think just developing that routine was one of the most challenging things, but also like one of the most rewarding and one of the most fun things was seeing the kindergartners come in and be in school for like the very first time they were all so excited to be there, and just like everything was completely new to them, where with like the older kids, they're just so used to it. Like it's just some of them, they're just like, oh, this is boring, this is our routine. But really for the whole kindergarten placement, everything was just so exciting. No matter what we did, like they were just thrilled to be there. So I think that's been the coolest part, is actually getting to start out the school year. I had a really good experience in that classroom in 401, but it was kind of different starting halfway through the school year and then finishing out the year, and not even actually getting out to finish out the whole school year, because our placement ended the beginning of April. So it was just a completely different atmosphere to actually start the school year with a new class and be able to see what those classroom routines are. And I think my teacher did a really good job of like showing her classroom management from the very first day, but also building those relationships with the kids, because it is their first time at school. So there were a lot of directions that needed to be given and just routines that needed to be put in place. So I think it was really cool to see, even just last week, the kids being so set in their routines, and we're only not even 2 months into school. But they've already like figured out so many things and like gotten in that regular school routine. And then I would say another challenging thing would also be going from kindergarten to 5th grade. It is completely different. There is not one thing that we have done in 5th grade that has, I mean, even just bathroom breaks. Like we took 4 bathroom breaks a day in kindergarten, and the 5th graders just kind of do their own thing and are on their own schedule. And also 5th grade has been kind of challenging too, because we switch classes every period. So throughout the day, I'm seeing like 75 students. So that's my challenge for the week, is trying to learn all of their names. So yeah, I think that's about it.
Good. And how old is your daughter?
18 months.
So Madison actually had a baby while she was in the middle of her time at Asbury. So it's been challenging for her, but she's done a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful job. Thanks, Madison. Karen.
Okay, I'm Karen Thomas. I am a P12 education major in music, and my first placement was at Woodford County Middle School, and I had the time of my life. We had 3 choirs, 1 each for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and then 2 group piano classes for 7th grade and the one for 8th grade. And it was absolutely amazing. All 3 choirs are excellent. My teacher was absolutely amazing. We had some special things happen. For instance, in 8th grade choir, we had about 44, 46 students, I don't remember. And 9 of them were guys, which is highly unusual for a middle school choir. And all of them were really great. So we actually got 3 distinct parts, and we could do a lot of really fun music with that. And so it was so fun to get to see that in real life. And the piano classes were great. There were some kids that's sadly become a filler class for the school for a few of the students. And so it was really kind of challenging to motivate the students who did not care a lot about piano. And yet that's my major instrument. So I'm like, come on, we have to love piano. But just showing them practical things and letting them play songs that they like, and that they already know. That was the first placement. The second placement is currently at Rosenwald Dunbar Elementary School. So the last lesson that I taught on Friday was 8th grade piano. And the first lesson I've taught this week was 1st grade. So there's a bit of a difference between an 8th grader and a 1st grader. And we saw them 5, 4, 3, 2, and then 1. So it was interesting to watch the ages go from 6, 7, 8 to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But that's been really great so far. The best part about student teaching, I think, is that this is the last big step before being a real teacher. Being a music major, Alex knows you are pulled in about 10,000 gazillion directions. And at the end of the day, you have to go practice. So you are in a room by yourself for about an hour and a half to 3.5 hours a day, working at your instrument in addition to doing all the other things. And it's so fun while you're at it. But when you're student teaching, your focus are your students. And I felt like I was actually able to apply everything that I've been working toward for the last 4 years and actually doing it. And I had help. So yes, it's not my full classroom, but yes, you still have professors here that love you and care for you and cheer you on. And yes, you have a cooperating teacher who hopefully, I pray that all of you have fantastic cooperating teachers, but they are there and they want you to succeed in your placement. And it is so fun to just have that as your focus. The most challenging along the same line is I lived the same kind of life for 4 years. And I was joking with my dad because this is the most predictable my schedule has been, because I get to school at the same time and I leave at the same time and I do the same thing at the same time every day. And so that's been interesting. I joked with Dr. Willen at the beginning of the semester. I learned very quickly that breakfast does not last from 6:30 to 12 when you are standing conducting for 3 straight class periods. So make sure, think ahead, plan things that you like to eat, and things that will also give you energy. So feed your mind, feed your body, and drink lots of water. Even when you aren't thirsty, it helps your brain. It just helps you move. It helps you think. And also, especially if you're in middle school, go ahead and step out, tread the uncertain waters of classroom management sometimes, but also remember when kids talk back, that's not a dagger at you. And mostly you have to let it roll. And Dr. Rhodes and I talked about this on the Eastern Kentucky trip too. You have to let it roll off your back and love them through it. Yes, sometimes you will make a mistake. You will redirect and it will come out harsher than you meant for it to. But apologize, because you're human too. And the students need to see that you're human too. But just let it roll. And when they come in the next day, it will be like nothing happened. So yeah.
Thanks, Karen. That was great. And I think our last one is another APS student, Kelly Tuttle.
Oh, great. Save me for last. I'm Kelly Tuttle. I am an APS student, so I'm from Carroll County. I don't know if anybody else knows where that's at. I did my first placement in Trimble County in a kindergarten placement. I did take time off. I had a baby in between my 401 and my student teaching, so I took that time off. But I was still with the same teacher, but she was a first grade in 401, and now she was a kindergarten teacher. I'm now in 4th grade at Carroll County. My most challenging thing for student teaching so far, I had a kindergarten classroom with 29 kids. So, I mean, that's over cap if you know Kentucky. So it's a lot of kids, a lot of challenging behaviors. Even after my 35 days of my placement, my cooperating teacher was still at a loss with some of our behaviors. So that was a struggle just to see her struggle. We worked through it. The principal was always in our room working us through it. But I feel like that was challenging because I felt like I couldn't help enough. And she felt like she wasn't doing enough for me to be able to get teaching. I started out day 1 with her teaching because I was there for a week before. So, I mean, it's great. I miss it. I cried really hard when I left. I mean, you have a bunch of 5-year-olds being like, Miss Tuttle, where are you going? And you're just kind of like, I gotta leave. I gotta go somewhere else. And it really breaks your heart. I had so many pictures and cards. But now I'm in 4th grade and I'm by myself. So I've got some challenges to press through, but I think we're all going to make it. It's exciting. It's glad to finally be here. I'm older like some others. I have a family and a baby, so you'll be there one day. So
That was great. Thank you, Kelly. Okay, those of you that are not student teachers, do you have any questions? We only have about 10 minutes left at the most, so I don't want to take all the time talking. Are there questions that you would like to ask student teachers? Becca.
Okay, yeah. For my elementary friends, especially Harley, you went from like 1st to 5th, right? Okay, how does that flip go? Like, are there a couple days in your second placement where you're just observing and getting used to it? Or like, you don't have that many days to just sit and watch, you know what I mean? So how did that work for you?
Sure. So my first placement being in first grade, I got a ton of teaching hours because it's guided reading, it is Sinners, and I get to do all the things. And I had a solo week, and my teacher actually, we built up, so we kind of did this gradual release with me. So one week I would teach writing, then the next week I would do writing and reading, the next week I would do writing, reading, and math. So we kind of built up like that. So my first placement, I got a plethora of teaching, and it was amazing. These first 2 days, so I haven't had a ton of experience in 5th grade yet, but really I've just been observing, kind of like you said, and figuring out how they're structured, how their daily schedule is. And really in first grade too, my first week, my priority was to learn the names of all my kids, build relationships. That was my biggest goal. Now I'm in 5th grade right now, and they are departmentalized. So I have 100 kids right now, and learning all their names is so difficult, but that is my goal. I am going to do that this week. And so, yes, it is a bunch of observing your first week, but it's just kind of dipping your feet in to kind of mold to their new schedule. Yeah.
I would also say the same thing. Like I went from kindergarten to 5th, and yesterday I observed all day just trying to figure out, because they're departmentalized, my teacher does 2 different subjects, and then she has RTI groups. So basically just trying to figure out what they do during the day, get used to that schedule. Even like your recess schedule and your lunch schedule, all that is completely different. Like kindergarten was the first of the day, and 5th grade is the very last lunch of the day. So like even just adjusting to that. But I would say, yeah, you do a lot of observing, but then it also depends. My teacher was sick today and is out today and tomorrow. So I got thrown into subbing her class for the next 2 days. So it really just depends, but try to observe as much as you can, like that first week, to get used to the students, get used to the schedule, and try to get, to knowing all of your students, because it is a lot different having 4 times as many students as you do in your lower grade.
Can I jump in and say, I really, really like that she said gradually releasing you. That was so perfect, because you did a little bit on your own, with her, and then on your own. I just love it. So I just had to say that.
Yep, that was good. Another question.
We have one in the chat.
It says, what is the workload of student teaching compared to, okay, I lost it. I don't know where,
Other
compared
blocks.
to other blocks. Honestly, you're prepared for it. Everything you do in your other blocks is everything you do in student teaching. You were 100% prepared for it. Prof. Ryle told us day one, if you weren't ready for student teaching, you wouldn't be here. They prepare you for it. So you're pretty much doing everything you do in 401 and then some in 301 in your student teaching. Like we're doing all of our components, we're writing unit lesson plans. And I mean, they work with you, they know you're busy. A lot of us have other things going on. I mean, 3 of us have kids. Like they really work with you. Just communication is key. If you're getting behind, you need to communicate that to your professor, any of them, and be like, hey, what do I need to do? But really it's no different than your other ones. You're prepared for it.
And also you don't have other classes on top of it, which I find to be helpful. You can really put all of your energy and all of your focus into your teaching, which is a huge benefit. And so, yeah, not having to balance it with other classwork and just getting to really lock in has actually made that process a lot easier for me, at least. And I'm sure it's the same for others.
Yeah. I would also say 401 and 301, like the paperwork that you have to do really prepares you. And honestly, I think it's easier this semester because you're not having those other classes. So like, yes, you're at school all day, but like you get out of school at 3:30, 4 o'clock, then you have the whole evening to work on it. And even like during your planning periods, if you're not busy. So I feel like right now I have more time to do the unit paperwork than I did all of 401.
And along with that, there were multiple days during the unit. I started the week before the unit and then really till the end of the the placement. But I would stay an extra half an hour. I tried not to stay super late, but just like half an hour, 45 minutes, and just get as much as I could done so that when I walked out of the door, school was done for the day. And that really helped to just take a deep breath for 30 or 40 minutes before going to bed after I got back and like did housework stuff. So don't feel like when the bell rings, you have to like leave right away. Like I talked to my teacher, of course, but it's okay to like take a few extra minutes because that way you don't have to get back in the zone once you get back home and you see the pile of dirty dishes. But just going ahead and just doing it while you can and while you're fresh and then just turning it off and giving your brain a break.
Well, and you even have time at the end of the day, like in kindergarten, I had to wait till everyone left because you had to make sure they got on their buses. So while everyone was like, their buses were being called, I would sit there and get my laptop out and work on as much stuff as I could in the 20 minutes at the end of the day while I was just getting kids on the buses. So you really do have a lot of extra time.
Several of you student teachers have said the unit, and there's freshmen, sophomores, juniors here that don't have some deep understanding of that. I don't want a deep explanation, but give them a sense of what teaching a unit is like.
Okay, I'll go. We are kind of looking at each other. I know we are. So unit is, so you have a 3-day unit in 401, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so you're gonna look, you have 7 different components and you have different things, but pretty much you're making lesson plans. For student teaching, you do a 5-day unit. So we had to make 5 lesson plans, and then we had to do 5 reflections. We had to do a pre-assessment, a post-assessment. We do a professional growth plan at the end, talking about us as teachers and what things we can work on. And then the first component's kind of about our classroom, our school dynamic, and things like that. So it's kind of like a big chunk of stuff, but really it's not scary. But anybody else want to touch? I was trying to be fast. I know it's 7:55.
And honestly, by the time you get to where you're teaching your unit, I'm sure it was the same for everyone else, you pretty well know what you're going to need to be teaching your kids. You've been there with them every day. There's nothing that's really going to be difficult other than the amount of time it takes to fill out all the paperwork.
Basically, the unit means you're in charge of all the planning and all the teaching, like that week or the 3 days that you're doing it. So you're coming up with all the activities, all the assessments, everything with your teacher's help. I mean, they can help you, but you're in charge of like planning it all and implementing it all. So.
And also like collecting all of your data. So like you're going to do your end of lesson assessments, your end of unit assessments. You're going to go through and grade all of those, see what students need, like what materials were you taught, if you need to differentiate anything, if you need enrichment activities. So you're planning all of that based on the like lesson assessments that you give.
Now with this, there might be some challenges that come up because your teacher might have everything planned ahead anyways, but you're gonna have to probably assert yourself a little bit and just be like, listen, like I need the practice. I need the practice with the creativity, with the lessons and all that. So you need to give me my space. I mean, it sounds a little harsh, but like, you know your teacher better than anyone else. So you just gotta work with them, be like, I need the practice, pretty much. Like, this is my week.
And at the very least, like, I think throughout all of it, something that's important to do is getting involved with the planning process with your teacher. So we would sit down for our planning at the end of the day or going to PLC meetings together and like just try to get involved with that as much as possible. The teachers, at least in my experience, they want, you know, your input and your ideas for their lessons because that kind of gives them a little bit more of an idea of what kind of teacher you are and what sort of things you're capable of. So at least in my experience with the teachers that I've been with, they've really let me into that process, or at least talk me through, this is how we've done it in the past, this is what's worked for us. And that has allowed me to kind of gauge that process, and have more tools and resources available for the unit as well.
Sorry, I'm going to jump in. I cannot stress that enough. I'm in a little bit different situation than others, but PLCs, jump in, talk, ask questions. If you are confused, when it goes to you and you're on your own sitting in a PLC, I was on my own on Monday in my first PLC. Jump in. They were asking me questions. Hey, what about this? Do you think do this? And I have a teacher going out on maternity leave. I am taking over writing her own lesson plans. And I'm not scared, but because my first placement, I asked PLCs, you know, what do I need to do here? How does this lesson plan need to be? Get engaged in those PLCs with those other teachers. It makes you a better teacher, and it helps them as well. It helps everybody when you're engaged in those PLCs.
It is 7:59 and I want to be very respectful of your time. So thanks to student teachers, thanks to the rest of you for joining us. Hope you have a very happy Wednesday. And Harley Wagner is going to close us out in prayer. Will you do that for me, Harley?
I can.
I know you can.
All right. Lord, thank you for today. Thank you for Asbury. Thank you for the profs that lead us to be great teachers. Thank you for our students. Thank you for these awesome freshmen, sophomores, and juniors that are able to be here and learn from us and from our experiences. Thank you for our cooperating teachers, and just thank you for this precious time, Lord. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, everybody.